Is it ever possible to have a just war? Is the, I think Joan is asking the question.
I think there are two important questions. One is by Reverend John about the interfaith dialogue, and the other is about just war. I don't have any definitive answer to both of these questions. I have not applied my mind sufficient enough to deal with this. But I have certain comments to make. In my view, interfaith dialogue in particular, and any kind of dialogue between two human beings in general, will never lead to violence. This is my quite firm belief. The problem is to have a dialogue is not an easy thing. In the form of dialogue, quite often we do monologue within ourselves, with ourselves, and without communicating with each other quite correctly. Communication is a very, very difficult thing in the human society, although we think that we are communicating quite easily and quite correctly, especially these days, the so-called information revolution. It makes communication very easy. But we have to look and very subtly to ourselves, to listening is almost impossible for me because my mind is completely conditioned, my own thoughts, my own cultural, my own background, my own experiences, and therefore whatever you say, I only hear the words and I interpret those words with my own conditioning, and that is not necessarily of your intention or you mean that, but I understood by my own way, and you talk about by your own way from your background. Unless we melt ourselves from the frozen of conditioning and able to open up to listen without any presupposition or pre-readiness to interpret your words by my own way, then we will able to have a really dialogue, listening, understanding, and responding. All this comes in a righteous way. Then the interfaith dialogue will able to establish real understanding among the religious traditions, and thereby the cooperation of religious traditions in the service of sentient beings will make possible, and also benefit each other from different traditions without diluting any of the traditions. So this is very necessary for interfaith dialogue. I participate a number of interfaith dialogue in India, and I find certain difficulties. People try to find out the similarities and just hiding away the dissimilarities between the traditions. And many people talk about all the religions are one, and there's no difference. They are different paths, but it leads to one destination, and so on and so forth. All these are our own imagination, our own response in effort to make some kind of interfaith dialogue or interreligious harmony, to create interreligious harmony. Diversity is, I think, nature of law, and perhaps the necessity of living beings. If everything becomes similar or one, then the world may not be beautiful. Individuals are individuals by nature. Each individual has its own individuality, which cannot be denied. The living beings can never be make completely identical or uniform. Even twin brothers and twin sisters, their physical body might be very, very similar, but they'll never be identical. You can recognize them, both comes together. They are different features. And not a two human being will find in this crowd of humanity on the globe which can be said 100% identical. They are individuals. Therefore, to meet their individual needs, we must have so many different kind of spiritual paths and spiritual traditions. And therefore, it is, in my view, not true that all religions are same or there are so many similarities. Similarities are our interpretation. There may be similarity of word, but the essence or the meaning, it has a uniqueness in each tradition. If there is no uniqueness in each tradition, then we may not be able to call a different tradition. Different tradition means there is a difference. And we need to recognize the differences and respect equally. I was very much moved by the Gandhian approach. Gandhi says, Sarva Dharma Sambhava. To have equal feeling or equal respect to every religion. That is the basis of religious harmony. That is also the basis of interreligious, interfaith dialogue. Many people, in the hearts of heart, there remains a kind of visible or invisible feeling that my religion is good or superior than the other religion. And it's very difficult to get rid of that kind of negative feeling. It is true that a particular religion might be suitable for a particular individual, and the other religious traditions may not be suitable to that person, but it does never mean that that tradition is better than the other traditions or less than the other traditions. We use the word tradition at many times, but we never define what is tradition. Kumar Swami has very beautifully said that long time perpetuated customs do not become a tradition, but we, at many times, we mistook a long-term perpetuated custom as a tradition. It is not that. Tradition means originated from a divine source or an authentic source, coming down with an unbroken lineage and verifiable by logic and reasoning, by common people, by common sense. And that is tradition. And tradition always means a spiritual lineage.